Princess Celestia the Changeling Queen, Chapter 11, Part 3.
This is bad,
said Blue Blood.
For once, we do not disagree with that pronouncement, nephew. We are dealing with an unusually powerful third hive, who was most likely responsible for pushing Chrysalis's hive to launch an attack on our ponies. Not to mention, their fighting prowess worries us considerably,
said Luna, her teeth grinding together. The alicorn was no longer able to hide her nervousness.
Luna, we will have to call that. This is far more serious than I could have ever thought,
groaned Alternia, sitting so heavily into her chair that it nearly fell apart. Luna glared at Alternia.
I thought we were going to call that regardless. Well, I hoped that could have been avoided, but it was naive of me. Send in the last prisoner.
While Blue Blood was mystified at the mysterious that in which the aunts were speaking of, he nodded and magically opened the door to call in for the guards. A moment later, they had unlocked the last cell and brought in the last captured changeling in. The changeling was sat down slowly in the iron interrogation chair by the guards, who quickly exited the room. Meanwhile, Alternia examined the changeling through impassive eyes, although she was secretly surprised.
Female with a light and sleek build, large wings, large ears, and a small horn, so a scout. But why are her eyes like green?
Pondered Alternia. Luna leaned forward, but not too close to the changeling.
What is thy name?
Demanded the princess. The changeling squirmed in her seat, her chains clinking as she shifted. Then, to everyone's surprise, the changeling looked up and spoke.
Has this room been warded for sound?
Whispered the changeling, her raspy voice emptying into the silent room. Alternia nodded, confused by the changeling's question. Like she had been released from silence, the changeling scrambled to the floor, knocking the chair out of the way in the process. Luna and Blue Blood jumped to their hooves, but froze in disbelief as the changeling prostrated herself at Alternia's hooves.
Forgive me, Princess! I'm Syndra, a maid at Canterlot Castle. Please, Princess Celestia, you have to believe me. I wanted no part in attacking Canterlot, pleaded the changeling.
Luna was gawking while Alternia's eyes were wide with unsuppressed surprise, and Blue Blood looked as if he was gonna faint.
But you are a changeling, are you not?
Protested Luna. The changeling was crying, her pupilless eyes moist.
Yes, I am, but you have to believe me. I knew nothing of what Queen Chrysalis was planning. I haven't been back in our hive in years. I left the hive a long time ago, and have lived happily in Canterlot as a pony ever since.
Luna's eyes traveled over to Alternia, who had raised herself from her chair and now stood at her full height, looking down on the trembling changeling.
But why would a changeling separate from her own hive?
Asked Alternia, her voice low. She knew it could be possible, but it happened rarely. The Everfree hive had changelings who went rogue, but they were very few and far in between. And at the question, Syndra's rather large ears drooped down and she sighed.
I was exiled, Princess. I was sent on a scouting mission to the Dragonlands, but I failed, and I put my fellow scouts in danger. I was to be sentenced to death, but my life was spared and I was exiled instead,
whispered Syndra. Alternia paused for a moment and thought, and then her heart began to pound wildly in her chest. Changelings never exiled changelings. It was too dangerous. Every changeling knew too many secrets of the hive, and even one slip-up by an exile could cause disaster. So someone must have intervened for Syndra, but who? Who would be powerful enough in a hive to interfere with the sentencing of a changeling? And then it clicked for Alternia. There was only one changeling in a hive with the position to alter the laws of a hive, and there would be only one reason why that changeling would intervene on behalf of the scout.
Your mother, who is she?
Asked Alternia, the ivory mask on her face paler than ever and her mane flow simply halting as if it was frozen, its colors darkening. Cold fury wrapped around the muscles in her legs and neck, tightening and twisting them.
Queen Chrysalis, Princess,
whispered Syndra. Before Alternia could seize her sister's spawn in her magic, she felt Luna's hoof on her shoulder. Whipping her head to glare at the princess, Alternia followed Luna's silent hoof back to Syndra, and stopped. The changeling was curled up in the corner, perforated hooves trying to hide her head, and tears streaming down her face and her chitinous body shaking with fear. The long shadow of an alicorn was cast on her like the limb of some great monstrous beast. All of Alternia's anger was doused, like a torrent of water being splashed onto her head, while guilt, a bitter and stinging slap to the face, took its place.
Syndra?
Asked Alternia quietly. The changeling stole a peek through the apertures in her holes.
Yes, Princess,
stuttered Syndra.
I'm sorry for frightening you.
Alternia slid down to the floor, tucking her face closer to the shivering changeling.
It's been a horrible day for all of Canterlot, and especially for you. You didn't mean any harm to any pony, right?
Syndra shook her head, hooves uselessly trying to wipe away her tears.
I saw the changelings swarming into the castle, so I hid in the kitchen pantry. But then that wave of love slammed me against the wall and tore out my disguise. The next thing I know, I was surrounded by spear points and put in chains. I know I'm clumsy, and I do have...
Syndra blushed.
I have had some fun with the Hot Royal Guard, but I never would hurt any pony.
Alternia chuckled.
And I know you didn't, Syndra. It was wrong of me to get so angry. However, things have changed, little one.
Alternia bit her lip, her expression remaining pensive for several long seconds, until she suddenly brightened.
Syndra, I know of a way to release you, but I need you to do exactly what I say.
She did what? Demanded Golden Star in shock. Blue blood wailed into his handkerchief, tears flowing freely from his eyes.
She tried to cast a portal out of the interrogation room, but the spells preventing such an action activated, and she...
Blue blood swooned dramatically, causing literally all the guards to rush forward to support him. But none of them noticed a rather small royal guardsmare leaving the dungeon. Seeing this out of the corner of her eye, Luna nodded to Alternia, whom after a pause spoke over the clamoring guards.
He's fine, gentle stallions. Besides, we have more pressing matters to be concerned with,
said Alternia, her brow furrowing, the changeling's lungs swelling as she seemed to grow in stature.
I am convening an emergency meeting of the Equestrian Chiefs of Staff.
While Blue Blood had been taken away to his quarters by the guards, Luna and Alternia trotted cautiously to the doors of the royal chambers, where the latter had asked Syndra to meet them.
Alternia, art thou sure about this? We do not know if we completely trust Syndra. It could be an act,
whispered Luna. Alternia glanced at the alicorn, her eyes narrowing.
I thought you trusted her story.
At the question, Luna flinched.
Well, what we did was done more out of pity than of trust,
admitted the alicorn. The changeling's frown faded, a soft smile replacing it, and her mane seemed to twinkle just a little brighter.
Whatever Syndra decides to do, Luna, I am glad that you were there to stop me.
With that, Alternia opened the door, and the two stepped in to find a hovering Pegasus mare with an olive-black mane and smoky white fur, busily dusting a chandelier. There was no changeling or no waiting mare stallion, just a maid. Luna groaned, and Alternia sighed.
Well, it looks like we were deceived,
muttered the changeling. Raising her voice, Alternia addressed the maid.
Cinderhoofs, I need to talk with my sister in private. Would you mind leaving for a moment?
At Alternia's voice, Cinderhoofs fell out of the air and crashed into the ground. Both Alternia and Luna started and rushed forwards, concern written on their faces. But that swiftly vanished as Cinderhoofs' white fur burned away to reveal Onyx Chitin.
It's me, princess,
said the changeling, bowing low. Alternia's jaw dropped slightly open in surprise.
Syndra? You were Cinderhoofs? Thou knowest her?
Exclaimed Luna, her own mouth ajar.
Syndra's worked as my personal maid ever since you returned,
explained Alternia, making a visible effort to smooth her features of her disguise. The fact that the diligent yet occasionally clumsy Pegasus that dusted her chambers every day was a changeling had taken Alternia by shock and reawakened old suspicions, although the name had been rather obvious.
Syndra, tell me honestly, was everything that you said in the prison true?
Syndra nodded fervently, her head bobbing up and down so fast that her ears flipped back and forth.
Yes, I haven't seen my mother ever since I'd been exiled.
The changeling stopped nodding, her ears hanging down.
I have wanted to see her for so long, and when I did, she was attacking Kennerlaw.
A pang struck Alternia's heart, and she smiled sympathetically.
In that case, what do you feel about ponies?
Syndra smiled. From the way the corners of her mouth twitched, it was as if it was a foreign expression. Alternia guessed it has been a while since she had been able to smile so freely.
I like them. In my hive, I had comrades, but in Equestria, I have friends. And while I can never tell them my secret, I still care for them.
Syndra crossed her front hooves.
I wouldn't want to see my pony friends come to any harm, but I love my mother.
Alternia bit her lip for a moment. She really pitied Syndra, but she knew that she had to protect her ponies, and currently, the conflicted changeling in front of her may be Equestria's salvation.
Syndra, let me be honest with you. Equestria will have to respond to the threat that your mother and her hive pose. Now, if you wish to keep serving me and live a life among ponies, I need your word that I can trust you, despite what I may be forced to do to your mother.
Alternia waited patiently, her face expressionless, while Luna did her best to stay impassive as Syndra trembled. Finally, Syndra turned to Alternia, a resigned look in her eyes.
I understand, Princess. I don't know why my mother did this. I mean, I know that she doesn't like ponies, but the changelings need the love of ponies. To attack Canterlot seems like suicide. But then again, Mother would do anything for her Ive.
Alternia sighed, for she knew what she would say next was not going to go well.
That is very honorable of your mother. Unfortunately, Sintra, I have a more difficult request for you. Every changeling hive has different infiltration procedures, or strategies. I need you to tell me how your mother's hive infiltrates equestrian towns,
said Alternia, her tone low and her brows slightly pinched together. At this, Sintra's eyes widened, and she scuttled backwards away from Alternia and Luna until she reached the chamber's wall. The changeling had begun to quiver, barely able to stand on her legs.
How do you know that?
Stammered the changeling.
I know more about changelings than you may realize, Sintra. Now please, I have to know,
pleaded Alternia softly. But Sintra only pressed herself closer to the wall, her voice more panicked than ever.
No, I won't tell you. Please don't ask this of me, Princess. I can't betray my hive. But they have exiled thee. Why should thou remain loyal to them?
Asked Luna. Sintra turned away from Luna's questioning gaze.
They exiled me because I failed them and my mother. I deserved my punishment, and I cannot fail them once again.
Luna sighed, but Alternia shot the Alicorn a warning glance. Quietly, she approached the changeling. Sintra drew her hooves closer to herself, but Alternia merely sat down in front of her.
Sintra, I know that you love your mother, but she has not only threatened my ponies, but she has jeopardized the survival of the entire changeling species. She has revealed the changelings to the world of ponies as a hostile race ready to conquer them. Unless Chrysalis is stopped, ponies will grow in fear of the changelings, and I cannot guarantee that I will be able to protect you or your race.
Sintra looked up into the depths of the princess's magenta eyes. Eyes that did not judge her, but reflected steely determination, as well as compassion and sympathy. Sintra blinked in confusion. Was there a twinkle of turquoise-green light in those eyes?
I will tell you,
whispered Sintra quietly. A long hour later, Sintra finished, her throat hoarse and her jaws aching. Celestia was smiling while Luna seemed concerned, but Sintra barely noticed. All she could do was look down, her gaze unfocused. Slowly, the changeling dragged a hoof across the carpet. She knew what she had to do, but she felt like she had driven a sword into herself. Without warning, the princess smiled and embraced her. The changeling stiffened in surprise at the action, yet couldn't help but relax under Celestia's comforting, well-groomed fur.
You did very well, young hatchling,
said Celestia. The changeling's eyes widened just as she was released from the embrace.
I will see you tonight, Cinderhooves. For now, though, I have a meeting to attend,
spoke Celestia. With a nod to Luna, the pair exited the chambers, leaving Sintra staring at closed doors. Only one question remained on the changeling's mind, and it distracted her from everything, even from what she had to do to save her race.
Wait, was that love energy?
Sintra whispered.
Alternia, what type of fun did Sintra mean when she said, I had some fun with the odd royal guard? We do not understand her choice of language,
asked Luna. Alternia merely stared at the Alicorn for a few seconds, before bursting into uncontrollable fits of laughter while Luna continued to stare curiously at the changeling in disguise.
Why art thou laughing?
Asked Luna, bemused. Alternia, a cheeky grin on her face, leaned down to Luna's and whispered into it. The princess blinked several times, and to her credit, she didn't blush. She just merely inclined her head in acceptance.
Ah, we see. How does thy own species mate anyways?
Inquired Luna, without even batting an eyelid. Much to her own chagrin, Alternia was unable to stop the flush that crept over her cheeks. Almost all of us know about the cliché female maid having some fun with a male royal guard, but I wonder if there are stories or scenarios out there that swap the roles and genders around, because I ain't ever seen any of them before. Anyways, let's get on to our absolutely legendary donators. Top donators: TacoCat598, Peter Coulthard, J Tinman, Darkside, Ponyman, and Gauntlet. Zar630, Strix, Raiden, Black Moonheart, Drake Lovedragon, Dospo, Delta Omega, RuneScythe9852, Hunter Norman, Dash of Evergreen, Rhynie Dragonwolf, Secret Moon, Tal Rasha, The Toilet Snake, Sword Brother and Mordred, Ron and Wandering, Random Person Man Guy, Easy, Jack Kedge, Skyochia, Leslie Prickett, Jordan Peterson, Crimson Kitten A9, Lightskin, Monster Kitty, Madman Stan, Starlight Glimmer, Lightning Blitz, Squiddy Boy, David E. Sanchez, Soul Dragon, Gaggy, Trey, Shadow Drake, Joe Piercy, Alex F., Rainbow Dash, Tioka Anderson, TV Killer, John Becker, Leon Reynolds, Raven Speedster, Zach Rakal, Mr. ECU, Edgar Garcia, One Kingdom 1, Nissa Rusan, Vazuri, Dyslexic Character Sheets, Just a Random Boy, Hodrick Pluncart, A Crazy Person, Ponyman365, Neapolitan, 6 of 9, Shyfire, Stamp, and Dion Basseri. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and live life to the fullest.